system and the types and examples today. But you don't need to practice this in the labs today. Instead, you are going to practice more of functions and object-oriented concepts in today's session. File system, we are going to do it more in data science. When we get into data science, then we are going to see how this file system will work and how to utilize that. So in Python, basically in C, Java, every programming language, there is an option to read the files and write the files, right? So technically, in Python, if we want to just basically the steps which we follow to handle the file system, one is opening a file. Either once you open the file, either you are going to read or write, then you are going to close it, right? So here, so in the file system, mainly you are going to open up with a file called test.txt. That's the file name. Assuming that this is the location of the file, it's the same place where your program is. If not, you may be giving a physical path like this, right? For example, your test.py Python file is in some temp folder, and if the text file is in the same folder, then you don't need to mention the C colon and all that. If it is in different location, for example, you are running a program either in online compiler or elsewhere, then you have to specify if it is from your local machine, it needs to be like this, C colon and all that. If you are reading the file from the web, then it has to be like HTTP and all that, right? So that is how this thing works. So now let's talk about more in detail, like what the types of different types of file system and how to operate those and open and all that. So here, first of all, why should a data scientist need to understand the different different types of file systems? Okay, so usually the files you will be coming across with the different applications where you will be handling a lot of data analysis, like such as images, okay, text files, and raw files, and even images. There is various formats like JPEG, PNG and all that. So it is important for a data scientist to understand how to read, certain type of files with the different extensions, and then able to analyze the data, right? So, for example, the Excel can be formatted as CSV. So the difference between Excel and the CSV is the CSV comes as the plain text. Like once you export data from Excel to as a CSV, in the notepad, it will be separated with either tab or semicolon or comma. The fields are separated, the data is formatted. It's easy for the systems and to exchange in one source to destination. Or you can also read it from Excel as Excel, right? So in just in the data. So earlier, like the CSV was one of the best option. Excel is not preferred because of the limitations to read the Excel file. CSV is a text format, is a preferred option, and then people long back, like 10 years before, 15 years, the XML was really well shaped, well in demand in the market, right? So a lot of demand in the XML format. Now this thing changed to get more attention towards JSON. So you can basically compare the difference between JSON and XML, and so which one is better and why? So I am saying JSON is better as per the market demand and utilization comparatively using XML. So why is that? The reason is in XML, for every data that you store, it requires a parent and a child tags, right? As you see. So whereas in JSON, the tags are basically converted as curly brackets. So these curly brackets are basically representing as a tags, right? Inside this is called a row, right? In the row, each one is a column, like ID is a column, name is a column, and salary is a column, and these are belongs to one row. Again, row number 2 with ID number 2 and next person. So this entire thing acting as an employee, as object. So in employees, there is a list of employees we have, and each row contains a set of data. That is how the JSON is right now. So either you talk about APIs, right, and web services, REST services, or the data between one application to another application. All these are happening through JSON data format through the web. Very, very, highly important, I think. So you make a note on your notebook and try to understand and learn about JSON format, practice JSON, and and learn the JSON, how it will be formatted, how the format comes, and how to use this, and the importance of the JSON. Okay, so also it's best that you always better to learn understand all the types of file system, and how that can be, when to use, how to use, all that. So for example, here I'm going to show you like how to read. So when we go to data science, one of the library that we are going to work with is Pandas. Okay, so in Pandas there is a shortcuts and predefined libraries which makes your life much easy to read different types of file systems in um, in the data science, right? For example, if you want to read .csv, so basically you are going to do this import, right? Import Pandas and as a alias PD. So PD means Pandas now. So Pandas dot read CSV, then you are going to give the path wherever the file is, then you are going to get it. Similarly, if you want to read a Excel file, you will be doing this read Excel. Okay, and if you want to mention the sheet name, then you are going to say that. Similarly, if you want to read a text file, you are going to use this plain text format, which is there in the Python itself. You don't need to use extra libraries. So I'm going to give you labs for all of this, and the file system, you just wait till we go to data science, and then we'll start practicing in detail. Let's get into functions, okay?
Zoom.
Hello?
Participants, please don't switch on your mic. See, Nishchita, I think recently, this last one, actually, whatever you've done, actually, it is not fair. Other students will get disturbed. Please, thank you.
Okay, so functions, in the functions, mainly is a highly, very important topic, right? All of you must really practice this well, because in most of the programs and the project development, people write a lot of functions. Okay, so next, today's topics are very highly important for you. If you really want to be a good developer and want to prove yourself as a highly paid person in the market, you have to be thoroughly practicing this and understand very well about functions, as well as object-oriented concepts, which I'm going to tell you today in the after these functions. So, what is the syntax of function? Basically, functions are defined as definition (def) in Python, and the function name and parameters, and followed by semicolon. So this is the syntax that you are going to start with. Okay, and then, for example, how am I calling this function? This is the function from here to here is a function which I wrote. Okay, and then so which basically sending the syntax here and converting into the case. So what is happening here? This is, so forget about this one for a second. So this is the function from here to here. So you are writing a function by defining as definition def space function name and brackets the parameters which it can accept colon. followed by the implementation. Here we are basically declaring some variable with a format, followed by it is doing some iterations. So it is going to find out like a number of uppercase characters, right, and number of lowercase characters. If there is empty string, then it will say that nothing is found. If there is such thing, it will come back with a count. Okay, that is the program. So now assume that this function is written. Now you need to go back and write. You are calling this function now, right? So str_test. Okay, that's a function name. Bracket and single quotes. Since it's a text, I'm sending. I'm basically using single quotes and writing like a programming workbench. So it is going to send here. It is going to be called. This function is going to be called here, and then so this is the parameter which we are sending into this, and that parameter is s. That is going to be here, and we are writing a loop to read each character from this string. Okay, so first character 1, which is a capital P, it goes here and it checks is a is basically is upper or not, right? So since this C dot is upper is true, then we are basically storing this array with the count. So uppercase number of found is +1. So currently this is started with a 0, and now it's incremented as 1. So if you, in case that if you practice this operators in the previous session, you know what this means. Like a of uppercase plus equals to 1 means that it is equivalent to a of uppercase equal to a of uppercase plus 1, right? So so it is going to increment. Similarly, if this is not the case, it goes to else if, and it is going to go here and basically add it to the lowercase. If nothing is found, for example, if it's spaces or something else, extra character, something comes into the picture, then it is going to skip that because we don't need to count those. So all of you from this screen, from the video, you can take this program, write it down, and then practice in our playground. So next, so I'm going to give you a lot of examples anyway. I have the labs, so you can practice that. So I want to explain what is this function all about in life, right? Do we really use the functions in life? We do use those in day-to-day life. The functions are mainly meaning-wise. When you turn on the mobile, right, and when you try to click on an icon, one of these gadgets, okay, so what do you expect? It has to open and give you some output, isn't it? In case if it doesn't do it, then so what do you say? This particular app is not functioning, right? For example, when you turn on your mobile, if you don't see this dashboard, what do you call that as? You're going to call it as the mobile is not functioning. Okay, it's not working is same as it's not functioning, isn't it? So the function, the representation in the programming is same which is used in the real life. So functions are basically meaning. Function means it has to react for your action. So I am making an action, and that particular thing has to respond back to me with outcome. Otherwise, it is not functioning. So that is why the function's intention of the function is it has to respond. It has to reply back. Okay. So for example, I'm sending this data here. Okay, and then go to this method, and it has to print something and give me the outcome, whether there is no cases, so that it's going to just print as it is, or number of uppercase, number of lowercase. If it is not doing anything, means for me it is not a function. It is not doing anything. It's failed, isn't it? So functions means response, like it has to return back. So in that there are two types of functions. Basically, we also call it as the first one is the one that is need to respond. It has to react. That is the real function. Whereas the other function is void function, right? Meaning that particular void function also call it as subroutine. So that the intention of void is, though it is going to listen to your instruction and execute everything, but it will not return anything. It will just perform the work and then keep quiet. But real original function intention is it has to return something in format of number, string, or depends on the how what you are going to implement in that particular definition. Okay. So another example in real life, if you are trying to turn on the TV, right? So using your remote, if the TV is not given any output, then you are going to call it as the TV is not functioning. So the function definition in real life is it has to reply back, it has to respond. If not, then we basically the function is not written well, right? The function is not implemented. Okay, so let's see that one example here, like a syntax wise and all that. So this is the definition as I told you, and this is the calculating a square, and we are sending a parameter and the colon, and here we are returning the output to the wherever we are going to call it, right? So the definition basically the DEF is the keyword in the Python programming language, which is basically indicates that we want to define a function, right? So instead of, if you don't define this, it will treat that as a variable or unknown. The minute you say this one, it is going to define that as a function. So after DEF, what is there? There is a function name, which is called calculate square, okay? And then third element is the brackets, right? The brackets here. So which is nothing but list of parameters. Here is only one parameter like NUM. You can have multiple parameters like NUM comma x comma y comma whatever the variables that you want to define. You can implement more here. Those are the parameters which you are going to use to write your logic and implement the output. So those are called list of parameters, which is happening in curly brackets. Okay, last one, the colon. So the colon is what? The colon. So after the closing bracket, we put a colon, which returns out that the body of the function begins. So the minute you put a colon, so it feels that the function declaration is completed. So then the implementation is going to begin. Okay. So finally the syntax for the particular function is DEF function name parameter. So you are going to implement, you are going to document something, and then you are going to write your implementation. Finally, you are going to return the output. So I told you one basic thing in the beginning and repeated multiple times. I'm again repeating now. It's better for you, even every person, whether you are already familiar or not. The person who is first time doing, I would recommend you to do it at least write the syntaxes 10 times, 5 times, depends on your memory power. You try to remember those guys. So that you will not mess up this programming and you try to break these basic things and struggle. You take your notebook and pen, keep on practicing this, write more examples, clearly have a clear definition about what is this, what is this, what is this about, right? Anyway, I am giving all this information so that you can even keep it and work it out. Next one. So just now we understood how the function looks like and how the parameters getting passed. So let's look at some examples here, how it works, like how do we call the function and how that can be executed. For example, here I have one simple function called print header. So it is basically printing the dotted lines. And then so I'm going to invoke that. How do I do that? I just need to call like print underscore header and brackets. So all of you, hope you understood the indentation so far. If not, in your notebook, please write this question: how indentation works in Python. Very, very important, right? So you really need to understand how the indentation works. So if you take this example, The definition is given here, and there is a print statement. And we are basically going a tab forward, one tab forward, and we are writing this print statement. The reason is we are writing this implementation inside of this function. If you bring this to a parent level, then it will not feel that this particular implementation is part of this. Similarly, if I take this function invoke method and write it in this level, in the sub level, instead of the parent level. Parent level means this one. Sub level, child level is this one. Then will think this is going to check and see if the method is implemented here, and it will fail. It could not find because this method is at the parent level. If I want to find this method, I have to call the method at the parent level itself. Okay, that means at the 0 space, like 0 spaces on the left. If I press tab and call this method, what happens? This is going to check here in the child level. Obviously, the child level, this particular method is not implemented, so it will fail. Now let's look at one example here, and also how to declare a function and having some default values with it, right? So we are defining a function called print numbers. And there is we want to give a range like a start equal to 0 and equals to 100. What is this? This is just a default number. For example, we are calling this methods here and sending the values that start and end. In case if I don't send, here look at the number third. Here we are not sending anything. So what happens? So since there is no values are sent, this is going to take default value as 0 and the end value as 100. So what happens here? Okay, so here the first value will be treated as 15. Since we are not sending the last value, then it will be treated as 100. This one we are sending both, so this will be ignored. The default values will be ignored. So you are sending the start as a 5 and as 10. So it is going to take that as inputs, followed by. And you can also declare here, right? For example, so you're reversing the sequence with the parameter name. The fourth example is, I am not, if I just send the values like that, it is going to treat the first 5 as a start, 10 as a end. So if I want to, by reason, so there is option for you to even exchange the parameter sequence, right? So now I want to send end value first and start value next. Then in that case, you can define end equals to 40 and start equals to 35. So ultimately, you are going to receive the values into this. Now, see what happens with this. So we are going to do a range for I in range, right? And then your start value, you are going to get start and end. So from there, it is going to do the printing process between these two ranges. So that is how this entire process works. And the explanation is here anyway. You can go and read. So is it clear, guys? So far, are we clear enough? Can we get into the OOPS concepts? Anybody have any? Please type, so that other people will not get disturbed. If it is clear enough so far, so not only that, I'm going to have show you that examples as well. Maybe let me do one thing before I step into OOPS concepts. I will try to share my document with the labs so that I will explain and demonstrate a few more examples. And we'll then start with. Then we are going to start with OOPS concepts. Let me share the labs. Hope everything. So today, that whatever I explained so far, it's clear enough. And if you have any doubts, just you know, you can ping, put a message across, or anyway, we are in WhatsApp group. We can always post a message. And the last few 2 days, some students have basically sent me a message with their doubts, and we have cleared all of those. So anyway, we are there for you. So we'll take care of the if any doubts are across. Can you all see my screen with the notepad day03.txt file?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the functions in Python, as we just spoke, assuming that now we are going to create one function called greeting, right? Greet. So this is how we can implement. And guys, like when you see this kind of quotations, this is mainly a comment that is going to begin and end with. Earlier we have seen comments like this one, right? When you put a hash, it is basically you are commenting one line. When you put this double quotes 3 times, this is more into multi-line commenting, which begins here and it is going to end here. Okay, so keep in mind. So daily, whatever the topics you come across, I'm highlighting anyway. You try to write down those. See, there is a a smart way of learning things. Some people they learn things in a hard way and spend almost a year. And some students they pick they listen the sessions carefully and make a note and just get entire knowledge in the same day. So which they will for them it will only take 10% of the entire time that other person takes. So here, all of you please mute. Okay, so next here, commenting is important. There are 2 ways of commenting this content. One is with one line like this with a hash, multi-line using this double quotes. Okay, so the function is implemented like this, and that is going to be called like this, right? So the minute whatever the word you send here, it is going to be called here and sent to. So name is passing as this name, and that will be printed here. One more thing, guys, I told you, remember earlier, anything that you write in double quotes, it is going to be a constant. Okay, anything that you write in directly without outside of the double quotes, it will be treated as a variable. So this variable is defined here, and this value of this variable is coming from this particular method. Okay, when you invoke this method, this is going to be sent, and you are going to print this. Similarly, returning a value, right? So here we are directly printing. We are basically calling this, and then it is printing the value after calculation. But here it is a little different. We have implemented similar method, and we are calculating the number is greater than 0 or not, and then so we are not printing inside the method. We are basically printing outside of the method, meaning you have print statement. Inside the print statement, you are basically calling it. Okay, so that is going to get here and evaluated and print. Similarly, then is another small function here where you are basically calling you are declaring the x value as 20, and you are making a method, right? You are calling the method. So what happens now? The x value anyway is overwritten with this, and it is going to print 10. Okay, and then you are going to print x value here. This will be printed as 20 because this value is inside the function, and when you say x here, this will not think about this as because this x is not available so it is not able to access the x which is available inside the function. For this particular x is referring to this x, not this one. Whereas this when you are saying x value here, this is referring to this. not this one. Got it? So in case if I send this value x to this parameter and I declare x parameter here, then I can read it directly and put it here. Even, for example, if I put some x value here, I'm sending this x to this number. What happens now? So x value is 20. It is going to go here. From then it will be called here. So by the time when it comes to here, till here, the x value is 20. But now the x value is got replaced with 10. So finally it is going to print 10 only. Got it? So you can also do that. So you'll understand how that the things gets overwritten. So you need to play like this, like don't just execute whatever is there and just keep quiet. These are just examples, right? You based on each example, you can able to write 5 to 10 programs using different thinking and different ideas, so that you will get more knowledge and you'll get complete subject. So that is what I was talking about in all sessions. Okay. Next one, having a multiple arguments. So earlier we have seen with a single argument, like only sending one parameter. Now you see how to send more than one parameter here. So we are in this thing, we are sending name and the message. Obviously, so we are calling this method, passing two values for two different parameters by separating with comma. So this name goes here and good morning goes to this one. So now this is the commented line, guys. So not to worry about that. So hello, the name, okay, and then the message is basically it says good morning. So then how can I pass collection, right? Numbers, different number of arguments in a single variable. So this is all about arbitrary arguments, where when you put a star and names, this became an collection, a variable which can handle the collection. So in this method, you are sending multiple values separated by comma, and this is representing as what? A collection variable, right? So then you are going to have a collection here, write a for loop, and then read each name from these names. So these names contains 3 names, right? So now from that collection, I am picking each name at once and I'm going to print. So you are going to print all these 3 with this above logic. So guys, one more assignment here. Try to send more than one collection of the parameter. Like, instead of like that, I want you to send, multiple collections and try to combine them, and try to merge together, or, something like that. Or using this particular thing, we'll send one more parameter and try to, in that collection, you need to find some value. When the value is found, exit the loop and come out. Something like that. So try to, I'm just giving an idea. You should basically use your previous last few days of, your exercises and experience to multiply these exercises, as many as possible with a different logic. Okay. If you will simply type whatever is here and try to be happy about it, then after 2 days you will forget completely. You will come back to 0. Instead, you use this as a technique and try to implement some ideas about your own, from your own face. Then you are going to remember those forever. How do you do the recursion in Python? Let's say we want to calculate factorial, right? So technically, in the way you write in C language, same. Basically, definition, there is a factorial, and we are sending a parameter, right? So we are going to calculate this and write the logic. And only thing is, you are calling this method, calling this function inside the function. That's all. So it comes here. It is going to be get called. Once it goes here, and then it is going to repeat the process. Okay. So then till it is going to get that value. Okay. Yeah. So that is how this process works, guys. Is it clear so far? Can we get into OOPS concepts, or anybody have any doubts about these functions? Everyone is okay with that? Can one or two can say that, is everything okay with the function so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Guys, are you sure like everybody is okay with that? Or you are just pretending that everything is fine? No issues? Okay. Okay, thank you. So let's go back to the PowerPoint with object-oriented concepts. Now, this is, object-oriented concepts is like, the most important topic in any programming language. Yes or no? And so now this is the time you basically stop thinking about everything else. It's like, you are in a space, or, that yoga center where you are only thinking about this. And you can imagine like there is no technical interview where people can get away the interview without asking question in OOPS concepts. Is it clear, guys? So now I want to make that concept in a simple way, using real life concepts, making your life much easy and and remember forever. But it requires a lot of attention and so carefully think about and make notes. So can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So now we are going to talk. Start with the class and object as a begin. So before I get into that, there is a few concepts in object-oriented which you need to understand. If you have a notebook with a pen, can you write down this list, and then we'll talk about that one by one. So I want you to write as class object. Number one, class. Number two, object. Number three, constructor. Number four, inheritance. Number five, polymorphism. Number six, abstraction. So those are the concepts that we'll look over, and then as required, we'll implement additional things. So to begin with now is a class and object, right? Try to understand what is the definition of the class. Okay, what is the meaning of the object, how it really works. So anything that is real, right, and filled is an object. Anything that is defined as a plan, okay, and structure, that is a class. Meaning, when you say boy or a girl, it is just a representation. It is not real. Whereas if you call it with a person with the name, that is a real, right? So the representation, is a class, and the real people are objects. So we'll talk more in detail. For example, animals, basically animal can be anything, but when you say a particular animal is real, Otherwise, the particular one is representation. So I will give a bigger picture that is just for you to just easily remember that. See, an engineer can basically come out with a structure, right, to build a house, isn't it? So this engineering plan, which is there in the paper, it is not a real house, but it's a plan. So the plan basically in a programming, the plan which we define with the rules, regulations, right? Those called as a class. Once you build a real house, right, based on this particular plan, is a object. So one more thing you need to pay attention to this. In programming, why do I need to really create a class and just can't able to just simply why can't we create object? Imagine here in real life, without drawing this plan, I can definitely create a house like that, right? Without creating a plan, I can, with my mind and memory, based on my ideas, I can create a house. That is possible in real life. But in programming, without creating a class, the system will not support you to create objects. What is the reason? Anyone? Maybe most of you not aware of the object-oriented concepts or not thought about this problem, this type.
So if there is no plan or if there is no blueprint like that, you cannot understand how to construct it.
Yeah. So basically, since it's a system, it cannot use its brain to construct something and without knowing what we are trying to construct. As in real life, as a human, can construct a house without a blueprint, and somehow we can break things, and somehow you can forget something and come back and fix something. You can do all that, but the system does not know all that, right? Tricks. It is not a human. It is instructor based. So so it doesn't want to do it until unless there is a definition of what needs to be done prior to creating this object. That is one reason. There is another, very important reason behind this is, think about if there is a row houses, right, where there is a community where they want to build same houses, 100 of those. Okay, so exactly same houses, every corner, everything will be same. And then they want to create 100 similar houses. So without a blueprint, without having the structure, is it possible? If somebody do it, there will be a lot of mistakes, because engineer one is building this, engineer two going to build one more, and or the labor who is building this, some other people will be building the other house. They may not follow same until unless there is some common rules, common structure behind it. So the main intention in programming, the main reason behind why we have this class and object is, the class basically going to make it a guaranteed, like secure that the outcome of this every plan will be same, and it obeys all the rules and regulations. If not, it is not. It is going to distract at the beginning. In the initial itself, it will not allow the person to fill the content. It will not allow this process to. In real life, it will not allow the people to construct the house. In programming, it will not allow you to create object, the instance of this plan, and it will not let you fill the content. Okay, so let's talk about in Amazon, in a business world, in more into technology terms. In Flipkart or Amazon, the minute you log into the system, and assuming that there is a class called student, okay, where the class properties are first name, last name, age, and number of items that you are going to purchase. So and then it has some rules to calculate, like your age has to be filled with a number. Okay, email ID need to be in that format. And your credit card has to be in some format. All the rules are there to fill the particular class of the user. So what happens the minute user 1 comes into the system, this class gets triggered and it's going to get created a new instance with in C or Java you will say like not in C, in C++ or Java, then you will say class equals to new and the user, where you are going to get copy of this, right? A shell, a skeleton, and then you are going to fill the data which is belongs to that particular user who just logged in. Okay. Similarly, this particular house is created based on this plan and given to a customer 1, and the customer name is going to be printed in this. Then we are going to house, then given to customer. So in order to all the houses based on certain rule or create all the users in e-commerce site. So encapsulation is all about hiding the information, meaning a flight is going on the sky, right? So when it is landed in the airport, and when you are close by, then you can able to read whether that airlines belongs to one of the Indian aircrafts or international, which airways it is. Okay, and then if you are inside, then you can able to see all the passengers and the air hostess and everyone. But when you are outside, for you it is a box labeled with something, right? But when it goes to sky, you have no idea, right? So technically, in operating system, there are a lot of objects that will be created based on number of users that once they get in, but they cannot see each other. The way when the flight is in the sky, for you it is just object. You have no idea what is inside and even which the aircraft belongs to. But then once it is landed in an airport, you can able to see with the label, the aircraft name. So similarly, here, this is a object, and with the name you can give like user object or some other object, that whatever the reason that you created a class and you fill the class data, made it as object, right? So that is high level. You only know the name, but you cannot you cannot see, you cannot find the data inside data, right? So that is only possible once you take the object into a reference and start going inside. Like when you put a dot, then you get the properties and methods. That is where that is as same as you are getting inside the flight and able to see all the passengers. So the reason why this abstraction name came into the picture is it is going to hide all the information which is not going to be given or shared with other objects or other members in the operating system. Okay, to maintain the security, right? It's like basically encrypting the data, right? Like passwords are encrypted because we don't want to leak the information to other people. Similarly, these objects are encrypted, kind of boxed in, the data is inside, and the objects will not be collide and shared among them, and this not be distributed, distracted. Okay, so next, getting into the real life, as I told you earlier just now, when the flight it is certain distance or at the bottom, you will know what is this aircraft is all about. Though here from outside, this is the object. The object name is Air India. Similarly, you are going to create a class and fill the data and call it as a user or a student. Okay, but you don't have any info. You don't know the details about this particular object until unless you go inside the flight. Similarly, Once you create an instance of that object and you assign to a reference variable, from there, when you start going inside that object, then you can see that what are the properties available, what are the methods available, which is very similar to if you are a passenger inside the flight, you can able to see how many people are on board, what are they doing, what is going, what is happening inside the flight. Okay, that is, you need to understand the concept of basically class means it's just an aircraft plan, like the skeleton in the paper, which is not real. And we are going to make copies of, we want to build the series of flights based on that particular plan. Those are objects. And when you fill the data, and if you fly, then that is more into creating object in the operating system and putting into a thread. That is where the multi-threading concept comes into the picture, putting into the thread, and the thread is going to take this object around and is available to you wherever you need. Similarly, this particular flight is given into a particular direction, right? A path. So this flight will be only going in that particular route, so that it will not get disturbed with other flights. So the thread, the pathway which is given to this particular flight from one airport to another airport, okay, it's a navigation path, control, right? So in operating system, the pathway which is tied to an object is called a thread. Okay, threading or multi-threading means multiple objects will be created based on a particular class, and they will be traveled in different threads given with a thread ID in operating system. Similarly, in sky, all the flights are flying with the different directions and different pathway, having their own travel space, which is equivalent to a thread in the operating system. So getting into inherit, that is whatever we spoke just now is all about class and object and the abstraction. Abstraction means hiding the information. This particular flight is abstracted and given a name as Air India. Okay, you can create a class for a student and the data will be filled. The minute you create a object from a class, it is abstracted, right? The data is hidden, and the name of that particular abstracted class is student. Okay, so now we are stepping into. So guys, this is such a difficult and very important concept. Though it may be a bit of confuse, may confuse you little bit. But it is really important that you really carefully write your points, understand, and go back and revise it multiple times. If you have any doubts or any issues, then we can go back and in the next session we can discuss. Okay, so now getting into inheritance, another topic in the so it is written as Java, but same, like I have a syntaxes here. So in Python, the inheritance, the concept is same in every place. So what is inheritance? Basically, anything that a person has that you are going to borrow, or rent it, okay, or you completely own it from other person. It is basically inheriting that, right? You are taking it from somebody, and from there you can extend. For example, you are doing a business. You are going to take some money from the bank, and then using that money, you are going to generate a lot more income. Okay, so you can do whatever you want, but you are basically getting from a bank. That is basically, typically it's called inheriting. It's from the parents or grandparents. You may inherit the property or whatever that they have, that all the belongs. Using that, what you do, it's up to you. So in programming, there is a concept called inheritance, meaning there are default classes or master classes or parent classes, which you can basically, instead of writing again same, if you want to use that, reuse it for different purpose, or you want to take it and use some percentage of that and some percentage that you want to extend. Okay, so basically, let's go into different examples. Inheritance, will give you, this is not well enough. Technically, imagine, as I told you just now, you borrowed some money, or so imagine you're from your parent, like you have taken 1,000 rupees, right? Using 1,000 rupees, if there is a, anything that is, which you can buy using that 1,000 rupees, you can directly buy it. Like you are buying some books and you need 1,000, and you can use that 1,000 and buy. Or imagine there is something like you want to purchase a laptop, right? You got 10,000 rupees from your parents, and the laptop cost is 20. So you need additional 10,000, which you may have it from your savings, or you may have it from your internship for some company, or you are doing a part-time job, or you're working or generating your money. You have 10,000, and you are basically taking 10,000 from your parent. Together, you can use that money and then go and purchase the laptop. So what happened here? You are using the existing, the parents' income, as well as you are appending your income. Together, you are basically purchasing something. So here the inheritance works in two ways. One is you take it and use 100% as it is and do something, or you take it and combine something more to to achieve what you want. Or you can take and ignore whatever is there and completely build on your own. For example, you have taken 1,000 rupees, right, for a particular purpose to purchase the books. Somehow you lost that money. So you spent it for some movies or doing something else, which you did not have. No, the purpose of that taken money, 1,000 rupees from parents, to purchase a book, but somehow that amount is used for something else. Now your balance is zero, but your main goal is to buy the book for the 1,000 rupees cost. So now what happens now? You are going to build your own income, and from there you are going to purchase it, right? So the inheritance, you are going to do three things. One is, once you inherit, you can either use it partially or fully, or completely avoid, ignore that, and then rebuild. These three things can be done. So you will see it in the labs. I have programs for you. Once you practice, you will understand. So polymorphism again. So what is a poly? Poly means, the meaning in English meaning, poly means many, right? It's basically consuming or constructing, more things from a particular scenario is representing the poly. So let's see what it means, right? So let's go to the next example. Okay, so there is no good example here, but I can give you later. So technically, poly representing, there is a variations by parameters. Like for example, if you want to calculate multiplication, so that can happen in multiple ways, whether by sending the numbers, various numbers in the format of, if you are sending two numbers, it will do the number 1 into number 2. When you send three numbers, it will do number 1 into number 2 into number 3, right? So variation in length of the parameters, or the definition, like whether the type, like whether you are sending as a numbers or sending as a string. Okay, whether type of the parameters need to be different, or the length of the parameters need to be different. Like you are sending numbers all together, or you are sending strings. Based on that, we are going to write methods to keep the meaning same. So I think the example is not here. I will go to labs and then I will explain more about it. So I'm skipping that for now. So let's talk about abstraction. Okay, abstraction here mainly. Abstraction is all about you are basically inheriting the class first. For example, we spoke about inheritance, right? Similarly, abstraction comes into either abstraction or interface. The both need to be inherited first. So I tell you simply one thing is abstraction means a mix of some implementation, some are yet to be implemented. Some are implemented, some yet to be implemented. That is abstraction. Interface means all need to be implemented. Okay, interface means all need to be implemented. Meaning, so for example, you take any of this. Okay, so these are basically. Imagine if the truck comes like that without paint, that whatever you don't like, then you are going to come out with the paint. Then what is it containing? It is having some implementation, the other customization that you are making, that is part of the abstraction. Whereas there is only a class, okay, there is no, the truck is not real, it's just a picture. And you want to build, or there is a material which does not have a, it's not constructed like a truck. Then that is more into interface. Okay, meaning there is a definition, but it is not implemented. Whereas in abstraction, some definitions are there, some are implemented. Meaning, take this bus for example. In this bus, the body is built, okay, even color coded, but there is no tires, inside. Without tires, you cannot move this vehicle, right? So what you have to do, you have to add these tires, meaning the 50% or 80% of this, whatever the entire vehicle is constructed, but these things are not, added. That means this particular concept comes into abstraction. Okay, so if it is fully, like imagine this full bus is ready, everything equipped, it can go now. This is equal to a class and object, right? Because it's fully ready, you can just fill the people and go, right? So when it is fully implemented, probably take these notes, guys, to get away from this confusion between the class, abstraction, and interface. If you can write the notes, compare, like try to create draw 3 lines, 3 columns in the paper. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Column 1 on top, the heading is a class. Column 2, abstraction. Column 3, interface. So under the column 1, when the class is fully implemented, okay, that is basically a class. It is representing a class. Under the class, you say class which completely implemented. Under the abstraction, a class which is partially implemented. Under interface, write it as not implemented, completely not implemented. So going back to real life, so imagine there is a bike and you only have all the parts here, like nothing is constructed, like you have every part about the bike here and on the ground, okay, nothing is implemented. Okay, but there are rules defined how this bike need to be and what are the things need to be implemented. That is comes as under interface. Imagine some percentage of the bike is implemented, like everything is set except the back tire. This comes into what? Abstraction. Why, if everything is fit, is ready to go, then this is representing as class. So once you practice the examples, then you will understand better. Okay, let's leave the class at this level for now. Just I want to not wait. I need to show you that labs in the object-oriented concepts, right? So let's continue with that labs, so that then you guys can practice and come back with the doubts next and the next one.
Mr. Shankar?
Yeah.
We have some more classes. Today you have some. No, today. Up to what time it is the class?
You mean the current class?
The current class.
I think it will be done in next 8 minutes, 5:30.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so guys, can you see my screen with the labs, the day 03 text file? All of you confirm?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So let's go here. Let's talk about encapsulation. As I told you, it's all about protecting the data, right? So we have basically created a class with multiple functions like set and get, and you are going to create a my class as this is a class, and you are creating object. The minute you say a equals to my class, the object is created in Python. Whereas in Java, C++, we are going to use the new keyword, right? So then it is going to create a new class. But here, the minute you say a equals to my class, then new object is created. This one. Now, when you send a value, then it is going to set. So you are setting value for A, value for B, and when you say get, like a dot get value, it is going to give you whatever the value is set. Okay, this is the basic example of creating a class and then creating object and filling the data. Similarly, you can create a student class and fill the student first name, last name, all that. Okay. Only thing is, when you are doing content, you put a single quote to pass the that, right? When numbers we don't need to, but strings need to be in the quotations. Similarly, this is about encapsulation. If somebody trying to break it, right? So you are going to break, and how you can violate. You can read this. So one more thing is constructor. Constructor I did not explain in the PPT. Mainly constructor means the minute you say a equals to my class, anything that you want to do some groundwork, right? You want to set some values by default and keep it ready. The constructor get triggered automatically without calling any method or anything. For example, here you are saying a equal to my class. Until you set these values, there is nothing inside nothing goes into A or B. Whereas if you have a constructor, the minute you say a equal to my class, right? automatically this is going to set some values for you. And even if you don't set value and if you try to call it, it is going to give some default values. Okay, so that is like in case if the parameters are not sent by default, what happens, right? So that is how the constructor works. Okay, so then class and attributes. Basically, we discussed, right? So similarly, you are going to create and you are going to set these values and you call them, and it is going to be printed. So there are class examples in the different varieties in here. Then inheritance here. Inheritance basically, initially the first class having a date. Date it is designed to print a date. I am inheriting that date into my time class. So now I have access to date and I already have time. So instead of implementing a date again, which is already there, I am trying to reuse it, right? So I basically take that and I have a time together. Now I am going to print. So what happens now? It is going to, when the minute you call, the time, it is going to print both date and time. But when you call date, it is going to create, get only date. But when you call time, it is going to print date and time, because date got inherited by time is basically inherited the date object and combining two of those. So once you practice, then you will have clear idea about that. So there is one more example of the inheritance. Okay, and the polymorphism. So there is animal example. Then you can see that whatever I told you. So technically, all you need to do is basically the behavior basically changes between the these varieties. So just observe on that, and then I will explain more again with the good example in the next session. Next session we'll have a detailed details about polymorphism. Parallelly, if anything that any concept that you are not fully understood, then we can again discuss. Okay, so here is the examples, guys, and basically these are pretty good, good enough for understanding those concepts well. Later, when we do the project, mostly in data science, if I will also think, if there is any project that where you can really see these OOPS concepts in real. Okay, so we are going to end this session now. So I'm going to share as usual. I will be sending this day 3, and you will have your video as well. So keep practicing, and we are going to add. So today there are functions in the workshop which you can practice, right? These functions, and you can also learn from it, from the theory. Try to complete as much as majority is doing. You are doing now. It's a good thing. So keep going and put more effort. This is still we are building the foundation, guys. We are not getting to data science yet. So the reason why you are doing so much work here is because to make your life better in the data science. So there is 16 people already went to that excellence level. 11 students are good. Okay, so guys, do better, because when you go here, then you will be into gold medal. You can obviously, the people who are in good definitely can reach there. So these people try to work it out, spend more time, and the people who are in red still try to put more effort and learn. Could be your first time you are doing this, but it's okay, no issues. It is still too early. You have a lot more time. You don't need to worry about practice, but at the end you will really grateful to this session once you get to